Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Father-Son Packers podcast, your source for Packers news, notes, and analysis. My name is Tommy, and I'm one of your hosts, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, my dad, Matt. Dad, how you doing?
Doing well. Little scared. The news this week.
Bit of a scare yesterday.
Scare yesterday in practice with Tucker Kraft. Not long term anyway, and but otherwise, nice day. Get ready for birthday party number 2 for your niece.
Yeah, I mean, when they're that age, they get the double up. They get the birthday party for the family, birthday party for the friends. But yeah, so we are here today to preview the Packers' upcoming Week 3 matchup against the Cleveland Browns. Lot to talk about, whether it's the injury report, specific matchups, specific pieces of the matchup. So we're going to bring you everything we know about this game coming into it, and we'll have a lot to tell you. Before we get into any of that, though, we're going to talk a little bit about some news and some injury report stuff and some scary news as well, which my dad already teased. But before that, just wanted to pitch a couple of things. If you like what you hear today, subscribe, tell a friend, whether that's, Apple, YouTube, Spotify, we're everywhere. Follow us on Blue Sky at Father Son Packer for updates on when new episodes are out, and then also updates on Packers-related injury reports, news, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Content from other Packers content creators. There's so many great people in the Packers content space right now. One-stop shopping for everything Titletown. Once again, that's at Father Son Packer on Blue Sky. But yeah, so like we mentioned, though, some news, some good news, some bad news. So, okay, we'll start with the newsy news, and then we'll go to the injury news, although I guess the Jaden Reed news is also sort of injury related. But the news there is that he had successful surgery. And the main actual piece of interesting extra information that we got is he got his collarbone repaired, and then also the foot that he was dealing with, the Jones fracture, he also got that repaired. Matt LaFleur said that's not going to affect the timeline, so it should still be 6 to 8 weeks as initially reported. I would imagine, though, Dad, that it probably means he'll need a bit more of a ramp up, given that it's a lower body thing. Because before we were talking about he should be able to, stay in shape, stuff like that. But with him also getting the foot repaired, that's probably going to need more of a ramp up, I would imagine. But I think overall, that's positive news that he's able to get both done, and that hopefully this won't be a nagging issue for him for the rest of the year. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it made sense because it's going to been kind of nagging, and it's just going to you feel like it was just going to linger all year and never get fully right, and so he wouldn't be 100% the entire year. So now he has a chance to be 100% at the end of the year. In terms of the timeline and the ramp up, it kind of depends if the timeline is shorter, I would say, for the foot. Because then he could start rehabbing that before he'd otherwise be ready for the So it kind of depends. If they're both going to be start rehabbing at the same time, then I think the ramp up would be longer. But if you can start rehabbing the foot earlier, then maybe the ramp up will be done by the time he's ready to play with the collarbone. And just
yeah, we'll see.
Wildly speculating on things I have no knowledge.
But you said, it felt like one of those things that was going to be didn't practice Wednesday, limited practice Thursday, limited practice Friday, questionable going into the game every single week for the whole year. So yeah, I think it's definitely nice that he's able to get this cleaned up. The bad news, though, is on yesterday. I had a heart attack when we saw this notification come across the timeline. It was that Tucker Kraft suffers knee injury in practice, and my heart skipped a beat. I don't know about yours, but we have since learned that it's not considered to be major. Now, he didn't practice today, and he's questionable for the game, which we'll talk about when we get to the injury report itself. But yeah, scary moment. It's a left knee, I believe they said. But Rappaport put out, a thing that said it's just a tweak. It's not considered to be a long-term injury. There's no major concern. I would imagine that he's probably I would guess they're leaning towards not playing him this week. And then next week, I guess we'll see. But I guess at least it's not major, but definitely a scary Thursday for Packers fans.
Yeah, I would be really surprised if he's going to play this week. I don't expect it.
Yeah.
And yeah, when they said, it's okay, but not, really major, it's well, that could mean a lot of things. That could be, less than a week, or it could mean 6 weeks. Not,
yeah.
It's
well, okay. So, and Matt LaFleur did say that they're not considering IR right now for him. So that should kind of give you an idea that it would be less than 4 games, although the Packers do have their bye week coming up. So maybe it could be up to 4 weeks, but with the bye week in there, it's only 3 games. So that's, I guess, on the table. I guess it is a good time for a bye week as well, to hopefully help these guys heal up. But yeah, so that was the big news yesterday. That was terrible to see come across the timeline, but hopefully he's okay, and hopefully everything's all right with him and he's able to get back, to 100% and back out there sooner rather than later. That does kind of take us into the injury report in general, though, which I guess we might as well start talking about. So Kraft did not practice on Friday. We just got this injury report across the timeline, but Kraft did not practice and he is officially questionable for the game. Beyond that, Zach Tom is also questionable with that same oblique injury that kept him out last week. So he said on Wednesday that because he did a locker room availability, and they asked him like, do you think you're going to be able to go this weekend? And almost always, I feel like the guys are like, oh, yeah, like, we'll see. He was like, ask me tomorrow. And because then they asked him, like, what he was able to do, and he's like, I feel fine, like moving side to side laterally is what he said, but if he has to get out and run, it hurts. And I'm like, well, okay, well, you probably shouldn't be playing football if it hurts to run. But I guess we'll see. He is questionable. Dad, you got any feeling on that? He was limited every day of practice this week.
Yeah, and I saw some clips from, I think, the Wednesday practice, the first one, and he was not moving like he usually does. He was kind of lumbering a little bit, laboring as he was running upfield in the blocking drills. I'm not expecting him to play. He looks like he's, I don't know what percent you would give it, but I don't think he's anywhere near what he usually would be. So, and yeah, I saw the same comment. It's like, ask me tomorrow. I can't even tell you.
Yeah, we'll see how I'm feeling tomorrow.
I'm so far away today, I can't even give you an answer.
Yeah, so
yes
I don't expect him to play. And then the final piece of the injury report is that Jaden Reed isn't going to play, which we kind of already knew. Beyond that, though, that does indicate some good news for Aaron Banks, who is going to play, so that sounds good. He's a full participant on Friday. And then Nate Hobbs was a full participant. Zane Anderson was a full participant. Bo Melton was a full participant. So it does seem like we're getting some guys back, Dad, which is some good news,
Yeah, it was like the first full participant today for both Hobbs and Bo Melton. And Anderson was a full participant all week. And also Banks today was his first as a full participant. So, and none of them have any injury designation for the game. So I think we're going to get some of our starters back. So here's a question.
You asking about the O-line rotation?
What do we think is going to happen at right tackle if Tom doesn't play?
I think it's going to be Belton again and maybe a little Kennard rotation. I don't think they're going to play Morgan at right tackle because that's like he's never played right tackle as far as I remember. It's like only been left tackle, left guard, and right guard, right?
I think so, which is kind of a little bit odd, but it does seem to be they don't want to put him in at right tackle. So I also think that Belton is the most likely.
Yeah, and like they could do something really funky and move Walker over to right tackle where he's played a little bit and then play Morgan at left tackle, but I don't expect them to make two changes there. But like that, they could do that.
We could get even funkier if you really want to. We can put Elton at right tackle.
No,
put Ryan at center and then put Morgan at right guard.
All right.
Well, no, they're not doing it.
We can move over to the other side of the injury report. Over to the Cleveland Browns side. They have one player out, defensive tackle Mike Hall, and then 4 players questionable. 2 starters on the offensive line, Jack Conklin, their tackle, and Joel Bitonio, their guard. And then their kicker, Andre Schmidt, is getting an MRI with a leg injury after feeling something in practice, so he's also questionable, so that's something to keep an eye on. And then their kick returner / wide receiver, DeAndre Carter, is also questionable. So a few there. I think the offensive line ones and the kicker ones are probably the ones to really keep an eye on.
Yeah, so I think... Conklin has missed games so far this year, and the Bitonio one is new. Though he says he's got, I think I saw his quote was, "I've got old man back, and it flares up every once in a while, and then I know how to treat it. We'll see if it gets done in time." And then the Schmidt one, just got a calf injury that popped up in practice today, I think. And I don't think they even have another kicker. They said we have to see if we have to add a kicker to the roster. So.
Yeah, I mean,
they haven't even figured that out. They're just going to get an MRI today.
There's some kickers out there, like Younghoe Koo just got cut from the Falcons, so like he's available. That maybe they'd sign him. Like there are some kickers available, but yeah, that's definitely one to keep an eye on. That does it though for the injury report, I think. Let's move on though to the game facts and what's going on with these two teams. So this game is in Cleveland on Sunday at noon Lambeau time. The Packers are favored by 8 points with an over/under of 41.5 for an implied score of about 25-17. In terms of what's been going on for these two teams storyline wise, the Packers are 2-0, have looked really good through 2 weeks with 2 very solid wins against competitors in the NFC North. But both those games have been at home, so it's going to be interesting to see how this, travels. Are the Packers able to keep that up on the road? And then the Browns, meanwhile, are 0-2, but they were this close to stealing a win in week 1 against Cincinnati. They only lost by a point, and really they should have won because they had a couple of missed kicks at the end of that game that would have won them the game. And so they should be 1-1. They did lose by a good amount against the Ravens the next week, but that game was kind of close through 2.5 quarters. The Browns' offense has been struggling, but their defense has been really good, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, so that's kind of what's been going on. But Dad, I guess let's move on to our, main takeaways for this game, our main preview for this game, and that's our important stats section. Do you want to kick it off with your first important stat that you're kind of keeping an eye on for like what this game is going to look like?
Okay, so I'll start with a Browns' weakness against the Packers' strength, and that's the Browns' rushing offense versus the Packers' run D. The Browns are second to last in the league on offense in yards before contact per attempt. And Green Bay is second best on defense in yards before contact per attempt, according to NFL Pro. By DVOA, Cleveland is 28th in rushing offense, and Green Bay is third in rushing defense from FTN Fantasy. Cleveland is also 28th in rush success rate on offense, according to RBSDM, and Green Bay allows the fourth lowest rush success rate. So that all lines up pretty well for a strength of the Packers against a weakness of the Browns. One thing to watch, I'm curious to see how things change going forward for the Browns, is how much does adding Quinshon Judkins change the efficiency of the Browns' rushing attack? After just one game, so just one game and just 10 carries, he has the best rushing yards over expected by far on the team at 2.2. The next best running back is a rush yards over expected of negative 0.9.
Oops. Not ideal.
So is it the whole team efficiency going to go up because he's doing better, or is it noise from a small sample size?
Yeah, I will say, though, that I did find something interesting when I was looking at the Browns' run game, because they're like good at a couple specific things on offense, even though their offense as a whole has struggled. So you mentioned like their running game has been struggling. Like overall, they're 27th in yards per carry, 13th in EPA per carry, 20th in success rate. But on runs inside the tackles, and these numbers are per NFL Pro, they actually rank 12th in yards per carry, 3rd in EPA per carry, and 8th in success rate. So like they're almost a top 10 rushing offense by a lot of metrics when they're running inside. And the Packers have been good at defending the inside run through 2 weeks, top 10 in most metrics, but going to have to do it again Sunday. Going to be a big game for Wooden, Brooks, Wyatt. And so I just wanted to highlight that because I thought that was interesting that like, yeah, their run game has struggled, but they are decent at like running inside. And that's going to be, on paper, that's probably a weakness of the Packers defense, even though we've been good through 2 weeks. It's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and I don't know how much our success inside is the defensive tackles themselves or the support they're getting from our elite linebacker play.
The linebackers have been, Quay Walker and Edgerrin Cooper have been so good through 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking like, can we say, how long has it been since this been said that they have one of the best linebacking duos in the league?
Yeah, and actually, since we're talking about the linebackers, I actually had another thing I wanted to touch on, which was going to be in my rapid questions, but I figured I might as well touch on it now since we're talking about the linebackers. So the Browns play a ton of 12 personnel, and so I'm wondering if you think we'll see more base defense. McDuffie only played 7 snaps on last Thursday against the Commanders per PFF, so like almost no base in that game. But the Browns play 12 personnel at the 3rd highest rate in the league at 49%, almost 50% per Sumer Sports. And they do pass a ton out of this look. They pass 73% of the time out of 12 personnel, which is by far the most in the league. Now, they have been trailing like during that Ravens game for a lot of it, so that definitely we have to keep that in mind as well. And they also play their tight ends in the slot a good amount, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But I will say, like, do you think that we'll see more McDuffie in this game than the last game? I mean, it'd be hard to see less, I guess. But like, since we're talking about the linebackers and Walker and Cooper have been so good, I wonder if we're going to see more base though with McDuffie out there too, and what that's going to entail.
That's a good question because what they've been doing is like spamming their rookie tight end,
Fannin.
What's his name? Fannin, and I don't think he's a particularly big tight end.
So no, he's kind of a tweener, yeah.
Right, they might be able to get away with covering him with a safety.
Yeah, they've been playing Njoku in the slot a lot too. Like Fannin's at like 36 slot snaps, and I think Njoku's at 25. like it's still a good chunk like of slot snaps for Njoku too, who's like he's a big tight end. He's a big guy.
Dude.
Yeah.
And they've also I've heard, I haven't looked this up, but they've been deploying them a little differently. Like Njoku's average depth of target is like 8.5, 9, and Fannon's average depth of target is more in the 4-something range. So they're hitting him in slightly different parts of the field, and Fannon's getting a lot more targets.
Well, that's the other thing I was going to touch on. Like, we're kind of bouncing around a little bit, but I mentioned that they're good at running inside, but they're also good at targeting the slot. That's like another like quirk of their offense that they've been good at so far. So normally they rank 26th in yards per attempt, like in terms of pass attempts, and 30th in EPA per attempt. But when they're targeting the slot, they're up to 8th in yards per attempt and 15th in EPA per attempt. So like they're an above average offense when they're throwing it to the slot. And they've used a wide variety of guys there. They got 5 different guys with at least 20 slot snaps. But 43% of those slot snaps have come between Fannin and Njoku. So I think that's going to be interesting. Like, do we see more McDuffie with those 12 personnel looks? But then if the tight end's in the slot, is McDuffie going to have to move out there and guard him? Because I think that's a mismatch. That's probably not what you want. Or are you going to have to put Bullard on those guys? Like, that's probably still a size mismatch in some ways, but I don't know if you want a corner on Njoku because Njoku's massive. And then plus they could probably just pinch him in and then run the ball. I do think it's like an interesting like matchup there because like we mentioned, we might see more base defense, but then they love having these tight ends in the slot. I don't know. What do you think?
So if they do 2 tight end sets, they might go with, Bullard covering Fannin and then one of the linebackers on Njoku.
Yeah.
Even though Njoku goes further downfield on his routes, it might be a better physical matchup.
So you think we're going to match that base with more nickel personnel then? Like just have Bullard in there and even with the heavy base personnel?
They might try it at the start. It kind of depends on what they want to try to shut down first. Do they want, if they're going to, there is some logic to trying to shut down the run first, which Cleveland has not been good at yet. But if they shut that down and force Cleveland to have to throw, that's kind of what they want.
And they've been throwing a lot out of 12 personnel, like I said. So like maybe you do still want to match that with nickel. I don't know. It was just like an interesting kind of matchup quirk that I thought was like for this game was like something to talk about.
Yeah, it's something I hadn't gone into that much granular detail, but it's kind of interesting to see that there are aspects of the passing game they're good at because overall, it hasn't been great.
No, not really. But like I said, slot targets, it's been pretty good for them. And like they've been targeting Fannin, he's looked good through 2 weeks. And Njoku, we know what he can do. Like they have weapons. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and so we could talk a little. I can go into back to what I had in
sure.
terms
Yeah,
of
go ahead. Sorry, I just it felt related, so I wanted to touch on
what you talked about was actually in the notes. What I talked about with the tight ends, I just pulled out of not completely, where, because I had actually heard it
knowledge,
somewhere.
Yes.
vague, knowledge absorbed by osmosis, not actually fact checked.
That's why I used to sleep on my textbook. Before
right,
before big
soak
tests,
into
just
your
gotta
brain.
soak it in. Yep.
Do you try to get the forehead on it?
No, as long as it was just under the pillow, it would work.
Oh, through the pillow.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. No,
I thought you meant
straight on it. No, that's I can have the one layer of separation.
I thought you meant you fell asleep at the desk with your face in the book.
No, under the pillow, so I could absorb it. So I could absorb the information.
This wasn't accidentally. I was reading and I had just.
What is it? Those Bud Light commercials used to say? It's only weird if it doesn't work. But anyway,
yeah.
What else did you want to say?
I could have told you it was Bud Light though. I could have.
It was some beer. I think it was Bud Light. I could be wrong. But anyway, what were you going to say about
sponsors?
The matchup,
if you know which beer that is sponsors,
yeah,
you can tell
I'll go
us.
back in and I'll like beep it out and put the old one in, and it'll be really really seamless. I promise. But anyway, continue.
So I'll get to talk about the Packers pass rush versus Joe Flacco. According to PFF, Flacco is 34th out of 35 qualifying quarterbacks in passing grade when under pressure. A grade of 29.7. And his turnover-worthy play rate under pressure is 8.3, which is 7th worst. And he has no turnover-worthy plays when kept clean. Mm-hmm. And his passing grade is almost 50 points higher when kept clean at 76.4 for pretty respectable 18th place, as opposed to second to last.
I will say also, caveat for all of the stats, mine included, yours included, like 2 weeks. So like small sample size for all of these.
Oh, yeah. And I meant to actually... anything we talk about with like DVOA for rankings, like how Packers are really good and the Browns are good at defense and bad at offense. A lot of that is actually referring to last year's standing early in the season.
Yeah, exactly.
because there are so few games right now. So a lot of these statistics come with small sample sizes for this year. That said, I'm going back to the well anyway. His pressure to sack ratio is actually 10th best. So he's not actually getting sacked that much when he's getting pressured. But it seems he achieves some of this by just throwing the ball into harm's way.
I will say, 2 of the picks, like having watched that game against, I think it was Cincinnati, I think the ball just hit the receiver in the hands and like bounced up in the air and got picked for 2 of them. I will say, to give him some, relief there. I will say, he might be the least mobile quarterback in the league, though. Like, he might straight up be the most statuesque quarterback in the league.
Now, there's an interesting word, statuesque.
Statuesque.
It sounds like he's made of marble.
Yeah, I mean, he's old. Like, it's hard for him to move around that fast. Like, it is what it is.
And he is pretty big. He's a pretty big guy too, I think. So
yeah, he's pretty
statuesque.
Big, yeah.
And NFL Pro, I'm just going to keep dipping into these small sample size statistics as long as they're going our way. Flacco is rated as the 3rd worst quarterback by EPA per dropback. And then PFF has the Browns' pass blocking grade as 10th worst, compared to the Green Bay's pass rush grade at 9th best. And Green Bay on defense is also 7th best in EPA per dropback and 9th best in dropback success rate against per RBSDM. So the Green Bay pass rush and coverage have been good. The pass defense overall have been good. And the Browns have struggled with protection, struggled with mobility, struggled with turnover-worthy plays. And if they're missing 2 offensive linemen, 2 starters, projected starters.
Although it sounds like Bitonio thinks he's going to play based on like the old man back quote.
It was a little bit like, it almost sounded in his description like he wasn't sure if he had enough days for his normal treatment to make it feel better. It's like, we'll see if it's taken hold, my usual pattern takes hold by Sunday. There was some comment like that made me think like, he has a plan, but he's not sure if he has enough days to execute the plan. That's the way I understood it.
Yeah, and I do think so we talked a little bit about if they put tight ends in the slot, we probably want Bullard there. Any consideration to the fact that they their passing game has struggled, but they've been okay at targeting the slot? Would you want Hobbs there at all? Like, is there any thought there, to put him in that spot at all?
We could talk about that. I was going to talk about that a little later, but perhaps, and I don't know how well he matches up against the bigger. He hasn't had much time yet this year. Historically, he's been a good slot corner, better than he's been outside. So I think that in obvious passing downs, I think we're going to see Hobbs in the slot. If we think there's a better chance of run, then we might see Bullard in the slot and Hobbs outside with Nixon.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, they've had a lot of guys in the slot besides Fannin and Njoku. Tillman's been there a lot. He's a bigger receiver. But Jamari Thrash and Jerry Jeudy have also been there a lot, and they're a bit smaller. So it's really going to be I guess we'll see what they end up doing personnel-wise from the Browns, and maybe we match that depending on, how they go, right? I guess that's probably the way to go.
Yeah. So we'll see how those things match up, and I'll talk a little bit more about it in a bit. But do you want to talk about another one of your points?
Yeah, my main point for this game was the Browns' run defense versus our rushing offense. And this is all per NFL Pro. So through 2 games, this is kind of some context. Through 2 games, we've all seen how good the Packers' run defense has been. I mean, we're allowing 2.4 yards per carry. It's been amazing. So it should tell you something that the Browns' run defense has been even better than that. The Browns are allowing 2.1 yards per carry, and just last week they held Derrick Henry to 11 carries for 23 yards over the course of an entire football game where the Ravens were leading the entire time. So currently they rank 1st in yards per carry allowed, 2nd in EPA per carry allowed, 6th in success rate on the ground allowed per RBSTM, and this is insane. I had to double and triple check this. They are allowing a staggering negative 1.1 yards before contact per attempt. I'll say that again. Negative 1.1 yards before contact per attempt. So that means on average, they are hitting ball carriers a full yard behind the line of scrimmage on every single run. And again, small sample size, but that is just ludicrous. Meanwhile, our run offense has been mid Is mid fair to say? Like 21st in yards per carry, 15th in success rate, 15th in success rate, 15th in EPA per carry.
15th, that's right on mid.
Yeah, so like right about average, but going against a great run defense this game. And this is something to possibly watch for. This is Pursumer Sports. This is a little bit more detailed. But we've actually been way better through 2 games at running out of 11 personnel than 12. We're 6th best in EPA per carry out of 11 personnel and 23rd best out of 12 personnel. Like, so a really good running offense out of 11 personnel. That's with 3 receivers on the field and 1 tight end. But pretty bad, like lower third of the league when there's 2 tight ends on the field. Unfortunately for us, that plays right into what the Browns are really good at. They're really good at defending the run out of 11 personnel. They're the 3rd best in the league. And they are less good at defending 12 personnel runs. They're 20th best in the league. So moral of the story, it's going to be, again, really hard for us to run in this game. Like, is kind of what I'm looking at.
This is probably going to be one of those where we're looking for, Jacobs to be getting yards after contact yet again.
I mean, he'll have to, or else we're losing a yard, apparently, every single play, because they're hitting us. They're hitting these teams in the backfield every single play. A full yard behind the line of scrimmage on every play.
And we've seen many times what Derrick Henry can usually do. Yeah, even in week 1, he stiff-armed some dude into the phantom zone. I can't remember who it was.
Oh goodness, I think it was Cole Bishop, maybe, or Taylor Rapp. I can't remember. It was one of the Bills safeties. Yeah.
So we know he can still do it, but that Browns run defense has been kind of nasty. It's interesting that they're better, against 11 and then 12. Maybe that's a little bit more normal, but it's really weird that we're
could also be reverse. Noise though. It could also be noise very
noise.
Early in the season. We'll see how that like shakes out over the course of like more games.
Yeah, and the matchups might change in terms of what personnel they have on the field in those situations. So it'll be very interesting to see how that continues to shake out. And whether, I was going to say that LaFleur's probably going to go 12 personnel and try to run out of it anyway, but
with Kraft
maybe
out
not now. With Kraft out, they might be going a lot more.
We don't technically know, but I guess we don't think he's going to play. But
not optimistic that
he did go out of it. They did ask him about Musgrave and Fitzpatrick today, and he had a lot of nice things to say. So like maybe they still go a lot of 12 personnel. They've been running some 13 even, but I mean, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I just am not sure. They've been really effective in the 12 personnel, and I think LaFleur likes it as a philosophy.
And it's been a league-wide trend. A lot of teams are running a lot more 2 tight end sets this year.
Yeah, I mean, we are down probably both Reed and probably Kraft.
I was going to say, yeah. It was like we're also down our main slot receivers, so maybe less chance of 11 also. Like, who knows?
Yeah, I suspect that it looked like Wicks played the most out of the slot after Reed got hurt.
Yeah.
Last game. So I think it's going to be, when we're in 3 receiver sets, it's probably going to be maybe Dobbs and Golden on the outside with Wicks in the slot. Maybe the reverse of what a lot of people would predict, but
yeah, and I think Golden will rotate in there as well, and we'll see Heath outside. I think we're going to see like a big rotation again.
Yeah. So Packers will be spreading the ball around. So people with fantasy teams,
yeah,
you're going to be frustrated because
it's going to be whack-a-mole.
Everybody's going to get like 4 or 5 targets.
But anyway, what was your next stat though? That kind of did it for the running game for me.
So for me, I'm looking at the Packers coverage versus the Browns wide receivers. So we talked a lot about their tight ends who have been actually really good and maybe carrying a lot of their offense. The Browns, however, looking at their wide receivers specifically and looking at EPA, receiving EPA per NFL Pro of their qualifying wide receivers. So I forget how many targets this is. It might be only like, you only need like 5 or 6 targets to qualify. They don't have a single receiver with a positive receiving EPA. Cedric Tillman is the best right now at negative 0.4 for a ranking of 58th in the league. For comparison, Green Bay has 2 in the above, 0 in positive. Wicks is 23rd in the league and Hobbs is 35th. The Browns' top 2 wide receivers, Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman, both average fewer than 1.3 yards per route run and are currently ranked 58th and 82nd in the league amongst 101 qualifiers with at least 4 targets. This is from PFF. And they're both below 60 in PFF's receiving grade, ranked at 85th and 90th in the league so far out of 101. Compare that to Green Bay, who have 3 so far this year over 60, with Reed at third best. Fortunately, he's not going to play. Wicks at seventh best, and Dobbs at 32nd. Meanwhile, the players who are going to be covering those receivers, their coverage grades from PFF, this is the PFF coverage grade score. Nixon is first in the league. Valentine is sixth, and Hobbs is 23rd out of 107 qualifying cornerbacks that have had at least 23 coverage snaps. They also give up the 19th, 43rd, and 8th lowest passer rating against, respectively. So that's a rating when passer rating against of 58.6 for Nixon, 83.3 for Valentine, and 39.6 for Hobbs. If you remember, all three of them had 39.6 in the last game, and that's the only game that Hobbs played.
Yeah.
So they've been covering really well.
Mm-hmm.
And the Browns receivers have so far not been productive. Is that they're not getting open, they're not making the plays? Is that the passes haven't been on target and the passing environment isn't good enough for them to succeed? Either way, this looks to lean in Green Bay's favor.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like, I think the tight ends are definitely the part of the matchup I'm going to have my eye on the most. But like, I do have confidence in our corners against the receivers. Like, and I do wonder, you were talking about the Packers receivers. Is this the week we see the Matthew Golden deep ball finally hit?
Oh, that would be sweet.
Right?
We've been just barely off.
This close a couple of times. I would love for this to be the week that we hit that one finally.
Yeah, and maybe the timing's been getting better and better. I think part of it was with Love missing time at the end of training camp. You know, they maybe didn't get as many practice reps as they needed to fine tune that. So just zeroing in closer and closer on hitting him in stride, streaking down the field. And I didn't look and see like the relative speeds of the Browns corners compared to like Golden in particular. But that'd be an interesting thing to think about. And also in terms of, Packers receivers, more Savion Williams.
I mean, more Wildcat, maybe?
More
Who
Wildcat,
knows?
More jet sweeps. He's going to be, I think, with readout, he's going to be getting more and more of those manufactured touches, I think. And they'll give some to Golden as well. He got a carry as well last week.
Yeah, I think he got a couple carries, actually. I think he got a couple different end arounds, right? And he looks good with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, he's fast, of course, and relatively shifty. So did you have anything more? I think you had something more.
Yeah, I had one more thing, which is Myles Garrett versus our tackles. This is one of those, please don't let him take over and just destroy the game plan. He already has 4 sacks and 10 pressures with 5 quick pressures through 2 games. That's per PFF and NFL Pro. We all know how freaky he is. And we just don't know if Tom is going to play in this game. And last week, Belton played pretty well outside of the holding penalty. PFF actually charted him with 0 pressures allowed, but I thought that was a bit generous. I myself, watching that game, thought he had at least 2 allowed. But so that's going to be a huge test for him if he has to start at right tackle, and then Kraft possibly not playing. I'm a little more nervous about the effectiveness of the chip help from Fitzpatrick and Musgrave compared to Kraft. Like less help from the tight end there because those guys just aren't as good blockers. And I will say though, Garrett mostly lines up over the left tackle per PFF. 72 of his 83 snaps so far this year have been on that side. So like almost 90% of them have been over there. So it's probably going to mostly be Rasheed Walker trying to stand him up. And he's been, I would say, okay, solid through 2 weeks. 5 pressures allowed, which is a little high, but PFF has him graded pretty well. 0 sacks allowed so far. Hopefully he can keep that up this week. But Dad, what are your thoughts on Garrett versus our tackles?
I mean, that's the big thing. And I was thinking, well, I guess we'll be giving a lot of tight end help. So I was thinking a couple of days ago. So this might be, is this going to be a Chris Brooks game?
Could be. Definitely could be a heavy Chris Brooks game.
He's been really doing good work at picking up
I will say also, rewatching that game against the Commanders, far too many free rushers for my liking. There were like 3 or 4 different blitzes where just a guy coming straight up the middle, just not picked up at all. And there was one where Jacob specifically just didn't block him, like went the wrong way. And then he looked around with his hands up. Like, I don't know if it was his mistake or Morgan's mistake, but like just a free rusher right up that was one of the 3 and outs like from our own end where like Love just had to throw it away. And like we just can't have those. Like that can't happen.
No, I think that's a recipe for disaster, and one of the few I actually feel like.
Yeah, so got to be better at picking those up. And Garrett's one of those guys that like you can have a plan for him, and it might not matter, but you do have to have a plan for him.
Yeah, he's just so good. I don't. They were asking. I don't know if you saw Micah Parsons if he thought, he or Myles Garrett were better. He said, "Well, if you told me Garrett was better, I could hear that argument." So a little
He's
respect,
really good,
going both ways. That's going to be what I'll probably be watching the most. Actually, is where Myles Garrett is every time we're on offense.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's my last stat. Did you have any others?
No, I think I got all 3 of my points in, and plus some extra, a little bonus.
I was going to say a couple extra bonuses.
I managed to sneak some in as a 4th without having even written it down.
And I already got to my rapid fire questions, so I guess we'll just move on to the bottom line. Dad, the Packers win if blank.
So this goes to what we were just talking about. If they can pass protect, I think if the constant pressure and forcing a couple turnovers, I think is the only route for Cleveland to win, because they've kind of struggled in a lot of other areas. So if the Packers can prevent that, then I think they're going to win.
Yeah, I have the Packers win if we can pass the ball. Like, that's going to be the big thing. Their run defense is that good where I feel like we're going to have trouble running the ball. But if we can throw the football, if we can keep Myles Garrett from wrecking the game, I think we can win. Dad, score prediction, what do you got?
So I have this one a little lower score than previous weeks for my guess, and I have Green Bay winning 21-10.
Okay, for sure. I have Green Bay winning 20-17. I think it's going to be a closer scoring game than the spread indicates.
Okay, you have just a single field goal difference.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like kind of a sketchy tight game. Like it's going to be low scoring. It's going to be ugly. Like I'm expecting kind of an ugly game here.
It could be an ugly game with a lot of punts and 3 and outs. That there is that potential. And how loud is the dog pound going to be?
Yeah, I guess we'll see. And first game on the road. So how do we travel? But anyway, so this has been our preview for the Packers' upcoming Week 3 matchup against the Cleveland Browns. Thank you for listening. If you like what you heard here today, come subscribe, whether that's Apple, YouTube, Spotify. Follow us on Blue Sky at FatherSonPacker for updates on when new episodes are out, updates on Packers news, injury reports, roster moves, etc., etc. One-stop shopping for everything Titletown. Again, thank you for listening. Tell a friend, tell a stranger. But we'll be back after this game to break it all down for you. Still doing 2 episodes a week, but until next time, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.